God's people said, I need a drink. I mean, you read this stuff and it's like super depressing. It's like, should this even be in the Bible, right? Did people in ancient times actually think this is uplifting or something? But this is in the Bible. It's not like some emo kid reading Nietzsche in his freshman philosophy class wearing mascara, talking about the meaning of life after his girlfriend dumped him. We're talking about Solomon here. We're talking about ruler of the known world, all the power at his disposal. We're also talking about Solomon, who was the richest guy in all of human history, and on top of all of that, he had superpowers. I mean, God endowed him with a supernatural power of wisdom, and Solomon, when this guy decides that he, at the end of his life, is going to give a TED Talk to all the young people about how life really works, well, then we should probably listen to him. Now, the reason why he's doing this is not so that we can get depressed about it. It's just so that we don't reach the end of our lives and realize that we have missed the point. Ecclesiastes is kind of like, well, it's kind of like what happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was on the edge of the water, and I rolled up my pant legs and took off my socks and put my toe in the water to see if it was cold, and it was fine. Put both feet in the water, and I closed my eyes, took a deep breath as I hear the sound of rushing water off in the distance. Because it was midnight, and I was in my basement. And what came out of my mouth after that deep breath was what my family likes to call daddy cussing. It's not cuss words per se, but it's said in such a way that everybody hides off in their bedrooms. Ah! Why? Crap! Have you ever had an oh crap moment? You know what I'm talking about? And you know when it's an all crap moment, like what happened to me, because no joke, here I am with a waste paper basket bailing water out of the window of my basement to the light of my iPhone. And what really bugged me about this whole scenario was that not 2 weeks prior, my wife had told me, you know what? We should probably get a battery backup for the sump pump. I think we should really do that. That's an all crap moment. You know you've hit an all crap moment when you start playing the woulda, shoulda, couldas in your mind. You start thinking, if I could turn back time to the good old days when our mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out, right? One of those moments. And that's precisely why Solomon writes this literature. And this Ecclesiastes is not just wisdom literature, like Psalms, Proverbs, Song of Solomon. That's all great. This is advanced wisdom literature. This is meta wisdom literature written by Solomon. You see, Ecclesiastes is a little strange. It feels conflicted. There's a lot of dissonance in it. It's kind of like Proverbs is very clean and neat and logical. It's like scales. You know, it's predictable. You know where it's going to go. But Ecclesiastes is like, it's above all that. It takes all of those rules and it starts bending them. It's like improvisational jazz. And here, Solomon is actually questioning the very nature of the simple ways that we have of viewing right and wrong. And he's giving us a glimpse of brutal reality of how the world really works, how the rules can bend. Because wisdom at its highest level is not about successful relationships, a business that's in the black, pristine religion and theology, and trophies and accomplishments. Because life isn't like that. Life is the gymnasium of the soul. And there is dissonance, and there is tension. And Ecclesiastes is subversive, it's subtle, and it's countercultural to the way that we understand it. So if after reading this, you felt that dissonance and you felt that tension, you're doing it right. Because this is the wisdom above wisdom that can take you to new realms of freedom truth, peace, and joy, because it's meant to give you a new way to navigate life no matter what happens. And it will change the way that you view your life. But it's not always fun. Because the truth will set you free, but at first it'll probably just make you miserable. The key phrases in this book get repeated in the Hebrew over and over and over again. And for us to really begin to understand what Solomon is trying to get at, we need to understand them in its Hebrew context. And a Western mindset is probably not going to cut it. One of the very first Hebrew themes that you've seen is the word meaningless. Meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. In older translations, you get it translated as vanity. But the word actually is a lot broader than just that. It could mean meaningless, but it's kind of a one-dimensional interpretation of the word. The word in Hebrew is chevel, and what it really means is breath, mist, or vapor. And there's a reason why this particular word comes up over and over and over again in the book of Ecclesiastes, because Solomon sees what everyone pursues in life, and he decides to do a lifelong big experiment to see if it really actually works. Now, there's 4 common pursuits that Solomon deconstructs that people tend to give their lives over to and then reach an oh crap moment at the end of their lives. The very first of these is accomplishments. And if you think about King Solomon, I don't know if you could find a more accomplished guy than him. Ruler of the known world, for starters. I mean, he makes the president of the United States look like junior varsity, right? And if you're talking about other things that he did during his reign, like building the best temple, I mean, he actually overlaid the entire thing with gold, for example. And his house looked even better. And he was famous around the world. People would come just to talk to this guy from miles and miles from other countries. And Solomon, the guy that was the ruler of the known world, says, look, I've been there and back. I know what it's like. And it's just vapor. Have you ever been there where you've kind of focused your whole heart on a particular accomplishment, and once you get there, you're thinking, is this it? Now, that happened to me when I was 25. I had a quarter-life crisis. And I had been focusing my life for 15 years to hit the mission field. And there I was in Asuncion, Paraguay. I land, and I have this really strange, unsettling feeling that nothing had really changed. And I began to question myself, is this it? I just experienced havel, vapor. Maybe you've experienced it too. I mean, you can be the best sales rep this quarter, and next quarter, no one cares, right? Because it's vapor. It's temporary. It's ephemeral. And then he takes another one, another very common pursuit that people go after. They go after accomplishments. They go after wealth. And again, Solomon, you're not going to get much better than this guy, right? I mean, he was taking in, no joke, more than $1 billion worth of gold every year. His net worth was it was in the trillions, okay, his net worth. To this day, in all of human history, there has been no one that had more wealth and more riches than Solomon. And he says, look, guys, I've been there and back. And at the end of the day, it's just a number. It doesn't satisfy. You always end up wanting more. And he's like, okay, that didn't work, so let's try pleasure. And the very first type of pleasure that he tried was chemical pleasure. And he tried wine, and lots of it. He's like, let's go for it, guys. Everybody else seems to be chasing it. Supersize me. Let's do this. And he finds that his soul just becomes as empty as the bottle that he was holding when it's all said and done. He said, look, I've been there. I've tried it way more than you've tried it. I've tried it. It's empty. It's temporary. So he's like, all right, let's try physical pleasure then. And that is a pursuit that a lot of us try to do. We're thinking, oh, if I could just have that relationship, if I could just get married, if I could just get married to someone else, whatever that happens to be, right? Solomon, man, you think someone that's had 2 or 3 marriages would have figured it out? Try 300. 300 wives and 700 girlfriends he was living with simultaneously. He says that I denied my heart no pleasure. Let your imagination run with that for a little bit. He has all of the power, all of the money in the world, and he's like, look, I did it. I tried it all. I mean, you think JoJo is jacked up? Solomon was jacked up, all right? He's like, it's all temporary. It doesn't matter. And then there's another one that we really tend to do here in mid-America. We're thinking legacy. I want to just give a good inheritance to my kids. I want my kids to have more than what I had. I want them to succeed. And Solomon, I don't think you're going to get better than him anyway. I mean, first of all, the amount of his inheritance that he left to his kids, you're not going to top that one, all right? And not only that, but he had supernatural wisdom. And so he's like, man, I've got to write all this stuff down. He writes down Proverbs for his kids, right? Ecclesiastes, this book for his kids. Song of Solomon, how to do relationships for his kids and for everyone that's coming down the road. And his kids lost it all in one generation. And what Solomon is saying here is that, look, you can try all these different pursuits, but it never quite fills the void. You're always going to want more. And here's the idea. If you feel like you need that thing, whatever it happens to be at peace, well, then you're missing it. And Solomon's conclusion to this whole thing is life is short, so look within. And I know that sounds a little cliche on the front end, but you need to stop and actually ask yourself the question, how much of whatever you're trying to get would make that empty feeling go away? I mean, really, how much money would you really have to make? How many people would have to admire you for that emptiness to go away? I mean, how many Pokemon do you really need to catch? Right? I mean, what would you even do with a fully evolved Pikachu anyway? But yet somehow we convince ourselves that if we just had that, whatever it is, if we just had that blank, it would all be right in the world. If I just got that promotion, if I just got that relationship, if I just got $15K more a year, if I just got a different spouse, if I just got a house that was in that neighborhood, if I just got the respect of my peers, if I just had kids that would mind. But we realize that when we get to the end of it, if we happen to achieve it, it doesn't last. It's never enough. And this is where it really gets scary. It's because we begin to medicate ourselves with the vapor. We'll go to alcohol, sex, money, substances, shopping, power, pleasure, Netflix binges. It's never enough. Because there's always the hangover. There's always the morning after. There's always the adrenaline dump. There's always the letdown. And if we keep going to the vapor like a crazy person, we end up with addictions. And we end up thinking to ourselves, if I could just have one more hit, one more marriage, one more promotion, one more level, one more Pokemon. And if we go to these things to pacify the ache in our souls, it begins to destroy us. And that's one of the fastest ways that humans will self-destruct. We can't ignore this fact. It's temporary. All our work, all our creativity, all our technology and gadgets, all our legacy, it's vapor. I mean, you can work and sweat all you want to, but eventually it's just going to sag anyway. Am I right? It's just going to disappear. Now, that might be depressing, but it also can be freeing. Check this out, what Solomon says. If a person lives many years, then he should learn to enjoy each and every one. But he should not forget the dark days ahead, for there will be plenty of them. And check this out. All that is to come, whether bright days or dark, is fleeting. See, the dark days are fleeting too. So, your student loan, vapor. Right? That rough patch your relationship is in, your grades, the election season, your suffering, whoever gets voted president, 50 years from now, we won't even remember. Your pain, it's vapor. Solomon here dishes out a big old bowl of perspective for all of us, that everything and everyone is a vapor. Your life is just a Snapchat. All you have are moments. And that whole thing about finitude can be sweet, but our souls inside, somehow, we long for more. And that infinite hunger of our soul can only be satisfied by something that is infinite. And nothing in this world that's finite is going to satisfy, which brings us to the second theme of Ecclesiastes that gets repeated over and over and over again, is the idea of under the sun. Now, what is this idea of under the sun? Under the sun is a euphemism of our life on planet Earth, the realm of the created. We would, in today's language, say this world. So we would say, in this world, you're born and you die. Everything that happens in that happens in this world, under the sun. And the thing is that not only are things temporary, but also things are broken. Man, reality is broken. Think about this. When you do a good job in this world under the sun, do you always get rewarded? No. When you love somebody in this world, do they always love you back? Do the authorities in this world under the sun always do the right thing and make the right decisions? It sounds a lot like Ecclesiastes, doesn't it? Here's what the teacher says. Again, I looked at everything that goes on under the sun and in this world and realized that in place of justice, wickedness prevails. In place of righteousness, wrongdoing succeeds. And here is where Ecclesiastes shows us how to respond when life happens. When after doing all the commandments and keeping all of the Proverbs, you still get cancer. Your spouse still leaves you. Your kids still rebel. You still get dumped. You still get sued. Someone dies. You still have to file for bankruptcy. Life puts you through the ringer. And the questions that we have when all of those things happen, because reality is broken, is we want to know why. And we want it set right. And there's a clue to that in Ecclesiastes. It says, he has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. You see, there is an eternity that does exist. We know it's true. And that eternity isn't under the sun. It is not in this world. It is above the world. And it transcends the universe. Could it be that what our souls long for, that more that we crave, is the eternal? Could it be that there are reasons in this world that we can't fathom? And the conclusion that Solomon comes to is that eternity is long, so look beyond. There is a song that God is writing. And yes, there is dissonance and there is tension. But one day in eternity, one day beyond the sun, when it's all over, it's going to be set right and it's going to stay that way. And we may not understand everything that happens in this world because our brains aren't big enough for that. It's kind of like trying to teach algebra to my cat. There are things that you are just not going to get. But did you know that there was another teacher? He was also a son of Solomon, 26 generations later. And he also had superpowers because he was supernatural. His name was Jesus. Here's what he says. I have told you these things so that in me you can have peace in this world. Catch that phrase? In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And that is the third theme in the book of Ecclesiastes, because when you open your heart to the giver, Jesus, you open your heart to the gift. You see, yeah, it's all temporary. Yeah, it's jacked up. So anything that actually happens that's good, that's a gift. The vapor, the finite, it's all a gift. There was another son of Solomon, the brother of Jesus, who put it this way: every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. Check that out. The creator of the stars, the one who made our sun, that is above the sun, not under the sun. What about him who does not change like shifting shadows? He doesn't shift like vapor. Now, sometimes when things happen wrong because reality is broken, people will say things like, I don't understand how God could exist with all the evil in the world. And my thought process has always been, how can there not be a God with all the good that's in the world? We broke it. Tap into that. You see, now I have a context for all of these things that happen, that life is a gift from God to be appreciated and enjoyed. All these things that are vapor, under the sun, now I have context for. And now I should appreciate the miracles that are all around us, pushing through the darkness. Here's what Solomon says. So here's what you should do. Go, enjoy your meals, drink your wine, love every minute of it, because God is already pleased with what you do. You catch that? God is already pleased with what you do. He made you. He maintains you. He has this planet working so that you can live. When Jesus comes, he makes us aware of what we already have so that we don't waste our time searching for something that you already possess. You get this backwards, and it's all meaningless. Jesus gives me the framework to appreciate the vapor because it turns my achievement into receivement. See, now, instead of me just striving for something, this breaks the back of slavish striving for admiration because I already have the favor of the only one who matters. And it helps me to forget the striving and angst and achievement and trade it for contentment. And it also breaks the back of greed and achievement, knowing that all I have comes from him anyway. And it also turns my pleasure into praise because Jesus gives me the capacity to taste and to enjoy without it taking over my life. This is what breaks the back of lust, knowing that that other person is stamped with the image of my Creator and is worthy of being cherished. Jesus makes the meaningless meaningful. And he makes life, and this is why life matters, because it's short, because it doesn't last forever. Just like flowers and sunsets and rainbows. And this is why parents treasure the time that they have with their kids, because they know that it doesn't last forever. Now, like Ecclesiastes says, we should come to the end of our lives, this end of musing over life. And my advice to you is to remember your Creator God while you are young. Now we can carpe that diem, right? We can suck the marrow out of life, and we don't have to wait until we're old and realize that we've already made a mess of it. Like Solomon says, before life gets hard and the injustice of old age comes upon you, before the years arrive when pleasure feels far out of reach, make the most of your life while you still can. And that's what I love about this community, is that Westside invests in young people so that they can avoid these oh crap moments. And I am so glad that there are godly men and women that are investing in my kids right now, because it shows. And you can be a part of that too, a part of that process. There's an opportunity where you can invest in the young so that they don't have these oh crap moments like many of us have already experienced. And it's the Family Ministry Leader Rally. You can be a part of that. Information's in your bulletin. But now I think we are ready to experience Ecclesiastes in a new way. To understand how, because it's vapor, because it's fleeting, it can become precious. And that there is something beyond the sun after this life. That this influences, and that we can experience the gift of God right now, in spite of what life throws at you. So now, with that in mind, read these verses again from the teacher. So here's the big idea from the book of Ecclesiastes. It's all a gift. So make it count. Ecclesiastes is a big deal. Don't waste your life. You only get one shot. There are prayer partners down front and online. If you'd like to talk with someone, pray with someone. And if this has created questions for you in your heart about God, Jesus, life in general, the created environment, we've created an environment called Ask Me Anything for anyone having questions that might be keeping them from a relationship with Jesus. No questions off limits. No person's going to get ignored without a potential next step. So at 6:30 this evening, we're going to be over in the South Sanctuary with a group of pastors, volunteers. You set the agenda, and your questions are going to guide us. So let's all stand, and I'll give you a blessing. May you be so aware that it's all a gift, that your heart grows, that you smile when the sun hits your face, that you give thanks for your food and you mean it, that you savor it as a gift from God, and you cherish your spouse, and you hug your kids, knowing that all of these good things come from the Father. And tomorrow, when you wake up, may you be conscious of the gifts of God that He is showering on you, that you enjoy your work and all that you've accomplished in His strength. And may you never be the same. In the joy that can only come from Jesus, no matter what happens. Amen. We'll see you guys next week.